On the next episode of Rick and Morty the Anime.
なんだ、モーチ。
奴らが来るよ、じいちゃん。急いで。
まだ作業中だ。
もう近くまで来てるよ。僕はそっちに向かう。じいちゃんは早く逃げて。
わしはお前らとは関係ない。巻き込まんでくれ。
An all-new Rick and Morty the Anime. Japanese language premieres next Saturday at midnight on Toonami and streaming on Max. On the next all-new episode of Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, Swordsmith Village.
Oh no, I slashed it. I had no choice, but now I've created more of them. The same name?
Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, Swordsmith Village. Next Saturday at 12:30 a.m. Only Toonami on Adult Swim.
Hello everyone and welcome to Toonami Therapy. Today on August 21st of 2024, I'm Michael.
Yeah, hello, I'm Tommy.
And this is our podcast where we talk about anime and things we've been watching, some of which in fact do air on Toonami. So, I don't think they had any new news since we last recorded to mention. I don't think. Let me just take a quick glance. I really should be doing this before we actually start recording, but I always forget. Yeah, I don't see anything offhand. So, all right. So we'll get into the premiere of episode 1 of Rick and Morty the Anime, which they decided to air subbed. Now, last week, I was saying, well, why not air it dubbed? Do they not have the voice actors? Can they not do a dub? Well, when I said that, I hadn't realized that when it comes on Toonami, this isn't a premiere. It actually premieres 2 days earlier on regular Adult Swim dubbed. Toonami just gets it subbed for some reason. So,
yeah.
Also, apparently they aren't using the actual cast of the original series for the dub either.
Oh, so, really?
Yeah, which is weird.
Why not?
I have no idea. Like maybe they would cost more or something. I don't know. It just seems kind of weird to me. Anyway, I haven't really seen that. I just found out about that. So they aired it subbed on Toonami. Okay, so to explain the plot, I'm going to actually legitimately read part of, because the person who wrote the episode synopsis on the Wikipedia page apparently isn't understanding things either, because they wrote, so he's saying like, okay, meanwhile, so basically to get into it, a bunch of aliens show up and they want to make Rick, that's the old guy, make something for him, but it's not actually him, it's just a hologram. The real Rick is off someplace else. Morty is then playing a virtual reality game, and then it says, here, I'm quoting from the what it says in this description. He uses different tactics against his first enemies, may or may not be saved from an attacking monster, encounters a time warrior girl named Elle, a man named Frank, or a Rick losing his Morty, may or may not be clear that the game world he experiences is fictional, treasures a Nander Dragon's tear gifted from Elle or Frank, lives an ordinary life or serves as a president until his death, and may or may not have a touching reunion with Frank or Elle. So apparently they didn't know what happened in that part of the episode either. So it might be, so this may or may not be just him playing a game, but it may or may not be also alternate dimensions converging. At any rate, they get him out of the game at the end, and the episode ends very abruptly. I don't know if this is going to be kind of episodic, or if this is actually going to be continued in the next episode. But yeah, that was the episode. So I'm going to be. So here's the thing: if I know you haven't watched Rick and Morty, but going into this, did you know anything about like the series or its premise or anything?
I think I confused this with the synopsis of Pinky and the Brain, and I was confused which one was the one that was trying to take over the world, and so that's what I was thinking of.
Okay, so I hadn't actually seen a full episode, but I had seen some bits of it, so I kind of knew the premise and some things about the show. So the premise of the show, which this does not do a single thing to explain to you, this is clearly meant for Rick and Morty fans, is basically that Rick is a sort of older guy. He's the grandfather of the other person, Morty, and Rick's basically a mad scientist who invents all sorts of things, and it's about just the hijinks they get into, often involving going to parallel universes or other planets. So that's basically the premise of the series. And if you didn't at least know that, this would have made even less sense than it did to me. Yeah, it was a very confusing thing. I mean, I think a few of the jokes were kind of funny, but for the most part, I didn't think it was just weird. And I looked and it looked like a bunch of fans of Rick and Morty. Well, if Reddit is any indication, and it's Reddit, so maybe it's not. But a bunch of them were saying, yeah, I was confused by this. So yeah, but since you didn't, so I'm wondering, what did you think of it, knowing absolutely nothing and probably be even more confused than I was?
Yeah, I didn't know what, I didn't know anything. The only thing I picked up on was like, okay, that's not the real Rick or Morty or whoever that was, and that's just a hologram. That's pretty much all I picked up. I was thinking the reason I couldn't understand it was because it was subbed, and maybe that was the reason why. But given your confusion and given that person who wrote that, their confusion, obviously I wasn't alone in being confused over this episode. So yeah, I was just like, I guess this is going to be about as hard to understand as Housing Complex C.
It's the fact they're airing it sub is kind of annoying to me also, because the thing is, it means that I have to completely, perfectly pay attention all the time. I can't, like, just briefly look away, like check on something while still listening to it, especially if I'm trying to talk to you, via text while we watch, which is something the two of us do for some of the things on Toonami. Right. I'm like afraid if I type this, I might not be looking at it and I might miss something. So, I mean, I can watch stuff subbed. I just don't like to watch stuff subbed live. So, that's the thing there, I guess. Yeah, I'm going to be fair. I'm sure some of this was actually supposed to be kind of confusing. But yeah, on the whole, it was just kind of weird. It had a different feel than the original series. So I like I said, hadn't watched a full episode. But after this, I'm like, okay, let's watch like an episode or two so I can compare them. So I just watched 2 random episodes that just happened to air. So yeah, it's got a different tone. The regular series is weird, but it's also a bit less like completely wacky. It's also I feel, at least compared to this episode, the episodes I saw were definitely more, oh yeah, this is definitely a bit more crude than this show, than the anime. So I was glad they kind of cut out some of that stuff, but then they, there's a lot less swearing than there is in the actual show, for example. But it also was like, but it also just made things kind of incoherent. Whereas at least the original show, I'm like, okay, there's some stuff here I kind of like, even if on the whole it wasn't my thing. So it kind of felt like this show got rid of the stuff I didn't like and got rid of the stuff I did like about the original series. So it's just kind of there.
Also, I can't seem to find this show on my anime list. So is it really an anime or what? Because my anime list doesn't have it anywhere on there. I can't find it. I'm trying to add it to my list and it won't let me.
Yeah, I looked
So,
there myself and didn't see it. And it's kind of, I mean, like it says, at least on Wikipedia, which is of course always reliable. Where yeah, like you look at the credits, it says like, you know, directed by, written. Oh wait, no, I'm looking at like written by. These are like it's like Takashi Sano, and so that's presumably like a Japanese. Well, obviously that's a Japanese name, and now I don't know if for all I know, you know, they actually do know English and they live in the U.S. or whatever. I'm just saying, looking at that and a bunch of other things, it looks very much like this one. Yeah, the production companies like Studio Dean, that's something. Although apparently William Street, which is from Adult Swim, is involved. I don't know exactly how the thing is working. It at least just looks like this is being primarily made on the Japan side. The voices in the anime, the Japanese ones, are the same people that they use to dub Rick and Morty in Japanese, though.
Okay.
Which makes it feel even weirder that they just aren't using the ones from the actual show for this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess there's a few. I kind of liked the Citizen Kane joke thing. The problem is it's a funny joke, but the way it's told is so confusing that it kind of loses the gag.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess we'll see how it goes, but not the greatest first impression so far.
Yeah. Yeah, I get the feeling this is going to be another one of those shows we have to suffer through the first half hour to get to what we really want to watch.
I wouldn't mind it so much if it was just dubbed, because then I could like just half pay attention to it. It's the issue I had. It's the same problem I had with like the first season of Primal, which I didn't really like that much. You have to be paying very close attention. You can't just half pay attention and listen, because it's a show with no dialogue. You got to be paying complete attention. Now, I didn't mind it so much in the second season of Primal because I liked that a lot more. But so don't get too angry at me, Primal fans. I did like the second season. So this is a point where I start losing track of my train of thought, so I should probably move on to the next show. We'll see if the next episode is more coherent.
Okay.
All right. So we've got Demon Slayer episode 46. So let's see. Okay. So I can't remember his name, but like the guy, one of the Hashirga guys, I think he's got black hair and is kind of grumpy. He's arguing with the younger kid from the village gets like it was over some sort of key. I can't remember the specifics, but anyway, he's able to it turns out there's a robot training doll there, basically, that you can use to, like, you know, fight against and stuff. I'd like to remind you that this series takes place in the 1920s, I think. But so apparently they still have apparently pretty advanced robots.
Wow.
I mean, I guess it's just supposed to be a training doll, but yeah, it seemed pretty high tech for the. I think it's in 1920s. It's pre World War II. I know that much.
Okay.
It's. Oh no! Wait, I think it says that this was. I'm sorry. I'm double checking. Apparently, this the robot thing was built during the Sengoku period. That's like 15th century, and it was so well designed it still works centuries later. Now, to be fair, maybe there's something in the episode I forgot about that better explain these things. But anyway, so Tanjiro ends up deciding, okay, I'm going to train against this. So he does a bunch of training and fights it, and and is able to to beat it eventually, which is a little, like I said, what kind of super advanced training doll robot is this if Tanjiro, who, has been able to actually fight some pretty strong demons at this point, is struggling?
Mm-hmm.
And again, maybe this is explained and I forgot. I'm sorry if that's the case. But anyway, the big thing is he beats it, and then there's a sword in the training doll's head, which I assume is just going to be his sword from now on because, he got a new sword. So, he needs a new sword, so he probably got it because of that. That's probably what it is. Like after Zoro's sword got rusted away, he, in the next arc, conveniently gets a super great sword from, like, what was it? He was like, I don't know, some guy, the samurai guy, the one who was infused with like some other person's shadow, or I can't remember the specifics of how it all works. So the one that Brook was trying to beat, but then loses to, but then Zoro beats him and makes Brook look kind of lame as a result. But it's I guess it's like that probably. Well,
I don't remember that.
It was quite a while ago on what I'm talking about in One Piece. Oh yeah, that was during Thriller Bark. That was before One Piece went on hiatus on Toonami. So this was a long time ago.
Okay. I admittedly do not remember much about Demon Slayer, and I don't know why I don't remember much about it. But, not my fault. Demon Slayer just okay this week, I guess.
Maybe you forgot it because you were distracted trying to make sense of the Rick and Morty anime episode 1.
That might not be too far off the truth. So.
All right. So. Now we've got One Piece episode 680, I think. So, let's see. So yeah, as established previously, the main villain does not lose because of, decapitation, because, we find out it's because, it was just a clone made of string or something like that. So then, so he makes everyone get taken out of the palace. He sets off this thing he calls the bird cage, which is basically setting this giant string bird cage like thing around the island. So it seems and then he's able to do it and make people attack each other and all that sorts of stuff. And then, announces to everyone, hey, we're going to, you have to kill, if you don't want to be killed by all of this stuff, then you'll need to go and kill the guys that I'm going to name. So, yeah, there's that. I guess this is their way, because we've been wondering, wow, this arc is only half over? Well, I guess this is their way to make it last. Actually, no, we're not half over, sorry. We're close to half over, but not quite there. I guess this is their way to say, yes, now this is how we're going to make things take fill up the rest of the arc.
Yeah. This episode was bizarre and unintentionally funny too, because especially because of the whole thing where he's telling that king, he's like, I'm gonna make that memory of yours into a sweet memory compared to what you're about to happen. And I'm thinking, well, what's happening now isn't all that much different from what happened to him in the first place. So I don't think it's really all that much worse. But so basically all he's doing is what he did in the first place. So he's making people attack each other with his bungee gum. and the the plot is kind of similar. It's like, okay, we got to kill these people. Who else? Well, I'm guessing the people he says they have to kill are going to be the Straw Hats. I mean, who else could it be? Maybe it's people who the Straw Hats are defending, I guess. That's all I can think of. But yeah, this episode was pretty weird and unintentionally funny for a lot of reasons. So uh, I can't say I didn't like it. I enjoyed it, just not for the right reasons, you know?
Yes, and it was also, well, I guess it goes without saying, but I remember you actually remarked on it to show that it was worse than usual. Yeah, this was a pretty padded one again.
Yeah, there was a lot of padding in this episode, and probably why I fell asleep the first time I watched it. But then whenever I watched it the second time, okay, I'm like watching it, I'm like, wait a minute, I did see all this stuff. It just was so padded that I forgot that I'd watched the whole episode because it felt like so little actually happened. So I thought I had missed half an episode, and here all I really missed was padding. So, yeah.
Although, looking at it, it looks like this was actually an adaptation of the majority of one chapter. So, maybe it was just a slow-moving chapter, so the padding felt even worse than normal. I'd like to thank the One Piece Fandom Wiki again for not only telling me which chapters are in an episode, but the specific pages of that chapter. Well, yeah, it says like pages 3 and 5 to 19 of chapter 745. So that's actually most of a chapter. All right. Okay. So actually, I'm suddenly very curious. Maybe it's one of those chapters that's that's got like a bunch of, like big page spreads, so that technically not as much necessarily happens. So of course they have to pad things out a bunch more for it. I don't know. Now I suddenly feel like I want to look this chapter up. I guess I'll just glance that over. In the meantime, we did have Naruto Shippuden episode. What were we on? 498. Yeah, there's more stuff about characters trying to decide we got to get something for Naruto's wedding with Hinata, which is kind of funny because the anime didn't really it just skips to this. I don't think in all these previous episodes it actually did much of anything to set that up. I think that was all set up. I think if you wanted to see the setup, well, past Hinata in Shippuden post time skip, there's that part where she confesses her love to Naruto, then dies, then but then she gets better, don't worry. And then Naruto just in turn never mentioned anything at all about it until the end of the series. I still can't believe it. They have that. She straight up confesses, and then they just don't mention it until like they have the movie, and they're like, yeah, okay, so they fell in love. Thanks. Okay.
Yeah, I wish they would have done more with romances. Like, I mean, that was like a couple episodes ago was like the extent of the Tamari Shikamaru romance. Like that one episode, that was like every single scene between the two of them that was romantic, and it all came in one episode. So
there was a little bit in the art before that, but it wasn't like it didn't get too much of a focus. I think that was the part where technically he actually does ask her out, and then we just have this stuff, and then that's kind of it. I don't mind that so much because at least they're side characters, but Naruto's the main character of the series.
Yeah.
And to do it like, it's just kind of weird. I mean, it's not even impossible to, like, you know, have characters get together without too much fanfare. I mean, Dragon Ball did that. It's just like, okay, these characters, they just got together off screen and now they're together. And then it just has them be together. You didn't have to, like, focus too much on the actual process if you just say, okay, it's off screen, they're together, they're done. I did mind, I'm a little surprised more series don't do it like that, but anyway, yeah, the other stuff here was like some stuff about them, you know, having to go into like this forest to find this thing and fogs, and you have to get out of it when there's doubt. To get out, you have to clear up your doubts, blah, blah. The details aren't actually that important.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I didn't really... Yeah, these last few runs of episodes really do kind of feel like they were, for Shippuden, they just wanted to, well, it's a popular series and they wanted to keep it going past where the manga actually ended, and I guess they wanted to end on a nice, clean 500 episodes for Shippuden.
Mm-hmm. So they had to pad things out so they could reach the 500 number.
Yeah, it was, yeah, because Shippuden, I don't know how long the original series was. And, well, hang on. Let me actually look that up. Now I'm curious how long the original Naruto anime ran for. Let's see.
I'm going to guess 363. That's just a wild guess. Wild guess to see if I'm anywhere close to that.
Let's see. Oh, you actually overshot it by a good amount. It was 220.
Oh, wow. Wow, I didn't realize it was that few. Wow.
Well, yeah, it's because they didn't have to do as much, well, I was going to say they didn't have to do as much padding, but then I remembered, oh no, wait, there's actually a ton of filler episodes towards the end of it. It's why people call it filler hell.
Yep, filler hell.
That's legitimately the phrase people used back then. I wasn't following the anime then, but that's really what a lot of people were indeed saying. Yeah, oh, by the way, I did pull up the One Piece episode. No, it's kind of a fairly typical one. It doesn't really seem like there's like a lot of, like, you know, 2-page spreads, or actually there's really not any outside of one that's like one of those things where it's a partial 2-page spread, but not the whole thing. Like, you know, you have a panel that goes over 2 pages, but it doesn't take off all of, like, the 2 pages. Yeah, which is what Bleach was kind of notorious for doing in later chapters. So okay, so yeah, just padding. Maybe it was just more blatant this time. Anyway, so that's Naruto Shippuden. We got 2 episodes left, and then we're done with that. I don't know if they've said anything about what the replacement was. Oh, wait. Was it My Hero Academia, or was that coming before? I can't remember how the schedule. I know they were bringing in My Hero Academia reruns, but I can't remember if that was actually replacing Shippuden, or if that was coming later, or maybe... Or is it Uzumaki?
I think, what about that email I sent you a couple days ago?
Oh, okay.
That might have it.
I think we've got the I mean, I've looked at these things. It's just that everything gets kind of jumbled up because of the fact that there's so many different days. And let me check. Okay. Oh, yeah. So it does indeed look like Naruto Shippuden. Oh, yeah. Sorry. It's just being replaced by a second One Piece episode. I think.
Right. Right. So we're going to get 2 One Pieces.
Okay.
And My Hero Academia, I'm assuming, is not a new episode. Because why would they put it at 3 a.m.?
No, they wouldn't. Those are
must
reruns.
Be lonely. Yeah.
Okay, so, all right, so that's all of our regular Toonami stuff. Let's start talking about the stuff we watched that wasn't on Toonami. So, we've got Dark Gathering episode 24. So, they managed to get out of the sort of weird dream alternate school, whatever it is. So Yayoi and the girl whose name I can't remember, and I have no idea if she's actually going to be important past this point, but they get out. Then that other girl, not the one that I just mentioned before, the other one who has been possessed by the spirit, Yayoi just kind of pretends to be possessed herself to try to get information, and seems to possibly fool her, although we don't know if it'll continue to work if they meet the rest of the spirits possessing people, that plot point that was introduced a few episodes ago. So Yayoi just calls that other person, the person who is the sister of one of the persons who got possessed but killed in a few episodes ago, and is saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. Why don't you get a bunch of people to help us out? With that. We're basically setting up a bunch of stuff with this episode. We've got one episode left. So I heard a lot going into this series that it does have very much a go read the manga ending, so I'm assuming it's going to have one of those, because they are not resolving all this stuff in one episode.
Nope. And it's a shame because it's 25 episodes long, so you think that would have been more than enough time to come up with a good resolution. So, I feel like I like the episode, don't get me wrong, but I feel like the quality has gone down in the last, 10 episodes or so. And even though I wasn't ever scared about it, I did like the fact that it would be like, okay, let's go to a scary place, see what happens. Okay, let's go. And that was more entertaining than what's recently been happening. So I feel like the show has dropped off a lot. I gave it a 7 some time back. I dropped it down to a 6. It's good, but it's just not good enough, in my opinion. That's all.
Yeah, well, the annoying thing for me is that I was looking at some of the stuff and like, oh, okay, so we're setting some stuff up. This could be interesting, but we're obviously not going to get there, at least in the anime itself. So unless we get a second season, maybe we will, maybe we won't. I don't think it's a super popular series, so maybe it'll just be left like this, but you never know. Sometimes weird stuff can get second seasons that you're not expecting. Well, we'll see. Maybe we'll watch next week and then they will suddenly announce that there's a second season coming. That would be funny timing. Okay. So we got one more episode left. We'll do that. Maybe talk about our thoughts on it at that point. So I will say one thing. I do kind of like the fact so many animes switch the theme song like midway through like a 25 episode season. This one has kept the same one the whole time, which I kind of like because it's a good theme song. Okay. All right. So next we move on to because at this point we've decided to double up because there's room for it, at least for now. So we got 2 episodes of Spice and Wolf, Merchant Meets the Wise Wolf, episodes 7 and 8.
7 and 8. And in the 7th episode, Lawrence and Holo come into this village and they're looking to make a trade, and the guy is clearly gypping them, which, it's obvious to everyone except for Lawrence. And what ends up happening is that Polo pretends to be drunk and spills over the water, and the water is actually wine, which means that he's been fooling them, and he was trying to pull one over on them. So Lawrence is able to get what he wants out of him and get a fair payment, which then Holo goes and wastes on all kinds of food, which is one of the things I realized about this episode. I was like, is there anything to Holo except eating? Like, that's like all she's become. She just become eating. And there's like not much more to her character anymore. I'm thinking like, is she just another Charmy at this point? I mean, at least Goku has the whole thing of fighting everyone. He needs to fight. He needs to fight. You know, he's not just all about eating, but Holo's turning into Charmy here. Second episode, a pretty dull one. Lawrence meets a shepherd. Shepherd wants to get hired. Lawrence goes to Holo, asks if he should hire the shepherd. She kind of sort of says yes. He hires a shepherd. They go into town and do business. And that's it. And that is the second episode. The first episode was a lot more interesting than the second one. I can say that. And there you have it.
The second episode, yeah, like there's the thing where, I mean, it's super obvious the guy's trying to cheat them somehow, but you know, her using the water or the to like, you know, show, oh hey, this table is actually super, that he's using the weights on is actually super tilted. You know, that was kind of smart. But I was like, the second one, all this stuff about the shepherd person, and then they, as far as I can tell, just leave at the end of the episode. So I mean, I'm gonna hope they show up again, because otherwise that whole thing would have felt like a complete waste of time. But I don't know if they do or not, because I haven't seen the rest of the show. I mean, I'd assume there are. I mean, it's the light novels go on for quite a while, so they probably do it. Let's see. I wonder. I want to look it up just to see if this person like does show up again. But I'm like thinking, well, I don't know if I want to spoil myself by accident or something. There. Let me.
Yeah.
Here, if I let's see. I'm trying to look at this stuff. Okay, glancing over this, it does sound okay. Yeah, it does look like they show up again. I didn't look hard at it. I was just trying to see. Okay, so they do this stuff. Okay, here's some more stuff about them. They must show up again. Okay.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I assumed they would, but unfortunately it does have the issue of, even if it's to set something up, it kind of felt like, wow, you spent a bunch of time on that to not get any place. But I guess this is just kind of a slower paced show, so, you know, I guess it's just part of it. So, alright, so we've gotten that. Move on. We got Full Metal Panic Invisible Victory Episode 2.
Okay, so Kaname is still on the run with Sosuke, trying to avoid getting killed. So everyone's trying to kill her, and lots of explosions, lots of car chases, lots of big budget production things going on here. And then you've got Tessa back at base, where they're trying to attack, and she finds one of the people trying to be treasonous to her, so she acts completely out of character and takes a gun and threatens to kill the guy, and like squeezes the life out of him by threatening him so that he changes his mind. And basically, yeah, Sosuke and Kaname survive, and they're getting into the robot Shinji, and I guess Tessa is getting her group of people together to do something. Unfortunately, though, it's not clear exactly what the bad guys are trying to. First of all, we don't know who the bad guys are, and second of all, we don't know what they're trying to produce. All we know is that there's lots of them, and they're very powerful. So I felt like this episode seemed like one of those big box office, big box office movies where you got all these explosions and, special effects going on, but you don't really get all that much plot out of it. And you also got Tessa acting out a plot. And in spite of everything I just said, this is probably my favorite thing I watched this week. So there you have it.
Well, in regards to who's attacking them, we know it's Amalgam, right? Or do you mean like we don't know specific what members of Amalgam are involved?
Yeah, which members.
Okay.
Members.
Well,
yeah.
To be
like
fair,
who the big bad guy is. Yeah.
To be fair, I think at this point, isn't there only one member of Amalgam we actually know about, Tessa's brother? Because I feel like every other character we know of who was part of Amalgam at this point is either dead or quit.
Yeah.
So he's the only like actual bad guy of it, I think, that's left right now.
Unless Goran survived again.
He seemed
wouldn't that be funny if he survived? That would be hilarious.
It would, although he seemed pretty definitely dead this time. The first time it was more ambiguous. This time it's like, yeah, he's just straight up dead. Didn't like Sosuke like shoot him multiple times while he was like in bed?
Yeah, I know. But yeah, like whenever he said that Konami was dead, and but we might find out that Sosuke's gun missed the bed and he survived all that time.
Well, I think if he comes back, it would be more likely that now he's like a cyborg or something. You know, like Von Stromheim from JoJo. where because I guess they just had to, bring back the Nazi character and make him a good guy retroactively. That was so weird.
Or how about Darth Maul somehow survived? Boba Fett somehow survived in the new Star Wars stuff, which I don't consider canon in the least bit, but both of those characters were clearly dead, and Disney decided to bring them back because they were popular. Well, so they both somehow survived.
Well, Boba Fett, even long before Disney purchased it, I know he had survived. That doesn't seem as much of a cheat. So okay, he falls into the Sarlacc pit. Okay, he's wearing armor. He's got a jetpack. I can see him getting his way out. That wasn't too unreasonable, and I know that he a bunch of spin-off material survived before Disney. Disney was just the one that actually, put it into something that, that got, like what was it, like a TV show or a movie, or where did he come back as? I can't keep track of all
streaming.
Okay.
Streaming on,
Okay.
One of their streaming shows.
Yeah. Basically, in that case, all they were doing was taking what had already been in all these spin-off things. It's just they actually put it into something big enough that people actually noticed it, because they've definitely done a lot more of that than Lucasfilm did. Because Lucasfilm, you had the Star Wars, Clone Wars, the multiple series in that, and that was kind of it for actual stuff that was on TV or streaming in regards to Star Wars outside of the movies themselves. Disney did seem like they really started putting out a lot more Star Wars stuff for better, or as I know many would say, for worse.
Much worse. Much worse.
So, yeah, I hadn't heard about Darth Maul surviving.
Yeah, he turned into like a spider or something. It's really bizarre. It doesn't make any sense, but yeah, they made Darth Maul survive. So
it's always so weird to me that Darth Maul was so popular when he doesn't. Like, he's just a guy with two lightsabers. He's got, like, no real personality. I mean, I guess you can say that about Boba Fett, but at least Boba Fett kind of had, like, I don't know, I feel like he had more of an aura to him, if that makes any sense at all. I don't know. But I don't want to take too much about Maul because I haven't seen that much. All I'll say is I just remember one person in this critical review of The Phantom Menace referred to him as Darth Time Killer. And I'm like, yeah, that was basically his role in the movie, wasn't it?
it was. It really was.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I'm looking. It looks like indeed Darth Maul was brought back before Disney purchased it. He was put in like the Clone Wars TV animated series, which I haven't seen, but I've actually heard was pretty good. I've heard people say that it started out kind of weak, but it got a lot better as it as it went on. But I haven't seen it, so. But yeah, I'm pretty sure in at least some spin-off, probably pretty much everyone survived somehow. There's probably something where Darth Vader like the only one that's actually stayed dead? Like the Emperor didn't stay dead; he came back.
And he's probably still not dead, even if, like once they get around to episode 12, he's going to be the main villain. I never watched episode 9 because I heard it was horrible, but and yeah, the Emperor definitely came back, and
yeah,
I won't. He's like one of those football players who retires and comes back and retires and comes back, and that's kind of what he's like.
Yeah, I didn't see it either because, like I said, the movie managed the impressive task of managing to simultaneously be disliked by people who liked The Last Jedi and people who didn't like The Last Jedi. How do you manage that? Maybe I should see the movie just out of curiosity. Okay. Anyway, so.
What were we talking about again?
We were talking about Full Metal Panic: Invisible Victory.
Oh, Garon, right? That somehow, I don't know how that got from Garon onto Darth Maul, but.
Well, we were talking about the possibility he would come back, and then we got into the thing about people in Star Wars who came back, and that's how we ended up there.
Okay.
Let me actually let's see. Okay, I'm looking at the description.
Don't spoil me.
Okay. All I'll say is I just was curious. I was just glancing over his thing on the Wikipedia list of characters article. So I'm like saying to see, okay, is there stuff listed after the part where he apparently was killed by Sosuke, or is there a bunch of stuff after? So that
don't spoil me.
I won't tell you if there's more to it or not. I was just saying that's what I was checking. Okay. So all right, done with that. Back on to Yu Yu Hakusho episode 2. So we find out about what the Botan kept calling the ordeal, and it turns out it's pretty simple. Just hold this, just carry this egg around for a while, and if you're a nice and it'll like absorb your aura or energy or whatever. So if you do nice things and are a nice person, then it'll feed that, and then it'll when it hatches, it'll bring you back to your body, but if you're kind of a jerk, which you kind of often were, so maybe that's not the most promising of things, then it'll just turn into a monster and eat you instead. So we get that. We find out that, I wonder if this stuff with all like the ogre things like was inspired by Dragon Ball Z, or maybe Dragon Ball Z took it from someplace else. But anyway, yeah, we meet Koenma, who tells all that stuff. Then Yusuke has to, get people to not cremate his body so that he can come back. It seems a little weird to me that, okay, we are like have the powers of the afterlife and stuff, and we can bring you back, but we can't like reconstruct your body or anything. So like, how does that work in this world? I mean, I should mention, when your body dies, it like starts pretty quickly deteriorating. So so like, even if you do manage to somehow restart everything, you have to like do a bunch of like fixing on the molecular level to return it. He does mention apparently that they make it so that the body is still sort of alive, but that would have had to have been later on, so there still would have been some of that. I don't know. I'm overthinking this, I know, but it's the fact they specify you gotta make sure they don't cremate your body that makes this point. Anyway, so he tries to communicate to, tell Keiko in dreams about this, but it doesn't work out so well. So he ends up having he just goes, well, you can possess people, but it has to be someone you know, and it has to be someone who can sense spirit, which turns out to actually work for Kuwabara, the red-headed guy. So Yusuke possesses him, but has to spend a bunch of time trying to find Keiko until to tell her. Eventually, does manage to, and tells her, yeah, I'm coming back. I got to go through this stuff, and then so good. So yeah, mission accomplished. Yusuke's body is going to be preserved until he finishes this for however long it takes, and that's basically the episode.
Yeah. So hopefully this show was supposed to be funny this episode and not unintentionally funny, because I thought it was hilarious all episode long. Like, everything was really funny. So if there was any part of this episode that tried to be serious, it didn't work with me. So hopefully it was supposed to be all humor all the time, because I found it very funny. And I'm also wondering about Kuwabara. And like, there's this one cosplayer who I told you about. He did Kuwabara at a convention, and every time he would enter the room, everyone would go Kuwabara, and everyone would be so fired up for this Kuwabara. And I didn't know who Kuwabara was until about a week ago, and so I had no idea who he was, but now that I've gotten to know him, I still don't recognize why everyone was so fired up over this one Kuwabara cosplayer. Like, why was he so popular? I can't figure it out. So that's one of the things I'm trying to figure out from this show, if there's a reason why he was that popular, or if it was just the person cosplaying him who was popular, and that's why it happened. This is 14 years ago, I will say. That's a sad and sobering fact. This is a convention that happened 14 years ago. So,
yes, some of those things. Yeah, you look back, you're like, oh, wow, that did happen that long ago. Oh, no, I'm getting older. So, yes, this was a pretty funny episode. I liked it. Yeah, a lot of stuff was fun. I mostly liked Botan and Yusuke's interactions. They were funny. For some reason, throughout the whole thing, I kind of felt like this is Botan feels like Aqua if Aqua were actually smart. I don't know why I kept thinking that, because saying if Aqua's smart is kind of like, saying, it's like Goku. If Goku wasn't obsessed with fighting, it's such a major character trait.
Yeah.
But for some reason, she did kind of feel like an Aqua who is actually not stupid.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a fun episode. So, yeah, we'll see where it keeps going. Glad you enjoyed it. And was there anything else? Okay, yes. So we gone through all that. Then we're back to the Toonami Rewind stuff. So we got Sailor Moon episodes 16 and 17. Unfortunately, I kind of ran out of time before this, so I only saw the first of the episodes, so you'll have to cover the second for me, especially.
Let's see if I can remember what happened in the second one.
The first one was like the bride one.
Okay, and then the second one. Okay, I'm gonna have to do some. What episode number was it?
The second episode, episode 7. It was episode 17. It was called Usagi's a model.
Camera.
The flash of the monster camera.
Okay, so the first episode basically was about this whole thing wanting to become a bride, and as you'd figure, it's the typical thing where the person's using it to gain people's energy, and eventually Sailor Moon and Pals have to break it up. The second episode is very similar, which is kind of a theme here. Basically, there's this picture taker at her school who is getting really famous, and then he gets possessed, so his camera steals energy of people, and he's become evil. So Sailor Moon has to intervene, and then Sailor Mercury and Sailor Mars show up to help fight him off. They get him brought back to normal. No one remembers anything. Everything's good and back to normal, and there you have it.
At this point, and actually, I'm pretty sure this must continue in the series, but since the whole thing is always they try to get the energy, and it's always done by some monster, and the monster fights the main characters and loses. Like, at this point, you'd think the monsters would be a little more hesitant to go along with these plans. They'd say, like, look, like, the 16 previous guys who did this all died. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
So that's a little... So... That's the problem with this sort of repetitive nature. You'd think they'd start saying, maybe I don't want to do, the thing that, like, everyone before me has died doing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's not too much else to say about it because, well, I only watched one episode, and that was just kind of the same one as before, and it sounds like the second one was the same one as before.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. After that, we've got Naruto episode 24. So, they're going to go in the Chunin exam. And it turns out it's a written exam. So, apparently, the rules for this one is you got to go through the exam. And and for each one you get, there's 10 questions. Although the last one hasn't been revealed yet. You lose 1 point for every one you get wrong, and you lose 2 points every time the ninjas who are watching you catch you cheating. And so people manage to, well, most of the people kind of figure out, oh yeah, the way you're supposed, because these questions are super crazy hard, what you have to actually do is figure out ways to cheat without them noticing you. That's the actual test. But of course, Naruto's an idiot, so he doesn't figure out any of that out. So even after Hinata says, you could copy my answers, but he doesn't do it because he's worried about losing the points for cheating. How exactly does that work exactly? Like, if Naruto had done that, would he have just lost 2 points and that would be and was caught? Would he just lose 2 points or multiple, or does it count multiple times? I don't know exactly how that works, but we do see some people get you have to who get failed for it. So yeah, we get that. We see all the other characters and their ways of like basically cheating. Like Ino has a sort of mind transfer jutsu, which I forgot she could even do, but I guess she can. Which she just uses it to swap bodies temporarily, to take over Sakura's body temporarily to see what her answers were. There's some other things. Somehow 1010 set up a mirror on the ceiling. How did she do that? I mean,
they don't notice it at all.
Yeah,
they're throwing other people out for cheating, and they don't notice giant mirrors hanging from the ceiling.
Maybe they did notice it, but they only took off 2 points for it. But my question is still how she got it to the ceiling at all, without like that. And you'd think some other people might have been looking at it. I don't know. That was just such a weird way to, and such an obvious way to do it. You know, others were things like, you know, Shino was having his like bugs, you know, test things. That was Shino. Ino was able to do that stuff. Kiba has like also another super obvious one, which is his dog is just on his head and is apparently looking at the other tests and telling him what they are.
Yeah, it was so obvious the way they were cheating that these supposedly really good ninjas couldn't figure it out, but then they were figuring out all these other kids. It just felt fixed to me. So yeah, it was fixed. The fix was in.
Maybe the thing is that you just have to be good enough that you only need to do it once, so you'll lose your 2 points, but then you'll do fine other wise. You know, take the 2 points.
Also, is if everyone's cheating, who actually knows the answers?
Well, Sakura apparently was smart enough to actually know them, but in case you're curious, we actually do get the explanation for that, I think, in the next episode. Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, no, because I think I know already anyway.
Okay.
So
for the sake of, I'm curious though, what did you think? What do you think it is? Just tell to me.
The whole test is basically to see if you're willing to go through with the test, and then the answers were irrelevant. All that mattered was that you didn't give up, I guess.
Okay, I will neither confirm nor deny that then. So we will find out in the next episode. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we've got there. And yeah, nothing else to say too much about that, but then I guess we clear off with Dragon Ball Z Kai episode 19, I think we're on. Let me just make sure. Okay. So, yeah, in this episode, they basically, if I remember correctly, and I'm not getting it mixed up with another episode, Gohan and Krillin and Bulma are just heading off to Namek, and yeah, it's like a lengthy journey, and they're just spending some time there while Gohan and Krillin do training, while Bulma's just bored. Bulma would probably be less bored if this was original Dragon Ball, because they, in order to pad stuff out, have them do a bunch of stuff along the way. Like they end up on this planet that they think is Namek, but isn't actually Namek. And there's also this part where they meet some people who were fleeing from Frieza's forces. And yeah, but we skip over all that because it's padding. Meanwhile, let's see. Meanwhile, yeah, Vegeta gets back to like the Frieza's forces and recovers from his injuries, and then he decides, well, okay, but then finds out Frieza has gone to Namek, which was what Vegeta wanted to do, so he heads off there himself to try to preempt him. And yeah, that's basically our episode. They all managed to make it to Namek. In one episode, instead of like however many it was in the original series. Let me actually look it up, but I'm gonna guess it took them 7 episodes? Let's find out. in the meantime, anything you wanted to say?
No, this was just typical Dragon Ball, but not as funny as usual. So, didn't really get into this one as much as most of the other weeks.
Okay. Let's see. So we got wow, that false planet planet Namek thing lasted 5 episodes.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, they go there and they find some like Namekians and stuff who help them find the Dragon Balls, but then it turns out that they're not Namekians, they're actually these aliens who are able to make you hallucinate stuff and made them think that they were Namekians and all this stuff, and were planning to like steal their ship, but the heroes managed to beat them and take off and leave them back on the planet. So yeah, so that was 5 episodes, and then there were, in fact, 2 episodes. Yeah, there were a total of 6 episodes. The first one was where they like encounter the spaceship and find the people there and a bunch of things there, and then there were like those others. So yeah, this was 6 episodes it took 6 episodes to get there in the original, and here it's just in 1. Okay. So, yep, and that's Dragon Ball Z Kai. Nothing else to say, but then, well, it's nice that they condensed all of that. One thing I wanted to mention, I'm sorry I forgot to mention. I did check because I was curious. The transfer up, maybe it gets even more longer later on, but the time it's spent for Usagi to transform and then Ami and Rei to transform clocks in at slightly over a minute in the first episode. I literally looked at it. Yes, it's slightly more than a minute. Okay. Yep, alright, I guess that's all of them. I guess we can give our top 3s, not counting the Toonami Rewind stuff.
Okay. Third place is going to be the first episode of Spice and Wolf, since that's the episode that I liked. Second place will be Kurabara and Yu Yu Hakusho. And then finally, top of the charts for the second straight week is Full Metal Panic Invisible Victory.
All right, so for me, this one's a little bit of a tricky one. Darn it, I kind of feel like maybe we should be counting the Toonami Rewind stuff just because it would make things simpler. But let's see, where were we? We've gotten. Let me just briefly think. I know the shows. I'm just pondering the order offhand. Yeah, okay. Let's put Full Metal Panic in third, Dark Gathering in second, Yu Yu Hakusho in first.
Okay.
That's where they are. Okay. That's all of those. So, we're done with all this stuff. Wow, that took a while, but anything to talk about, I guess, outside of all these things?
No, I can't think of anything.
Okay. I guess I'll just mention that I have decided to, because the next season is coming, I've decided I'm going to rewatch the second season of Zero. I'm trying to do it Spanish dubbed, which means that I could get like 75% of the dialogue. I rely a lot on remembering things from before. So I'm like, okay, I don't know what this character said, but I remember the general thing of what they said. Anyway, I know we weren't super big on it when we watched it originally. I'm only about, I think, a third through, so things could change. So far, I think I do like it more the second time around, but I think it works a lot better if you're going through it, more quickly than once per week, so it doesn't seem to drag as much. On the other hand, I haven't gotten into the part yet where it seemed like every episode was 29 minutes long, so maybe that'll change things when I get there.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, there's all of that then. That's just, I guess, a brief update there. And I don't have anything else to really say, especially because we've been on for a while. So I think that's everything. Then I guess we'll see you next week, and we'll see if things are more interesting or less interesting than before. And oh yeah, we'll reach the end of Dark Gathering, and we'll see exactly how much of a go read the manga ending it ends up being. I mean, I know it will be, but the question is how much of one. And that's it. Since I have nothing else to say, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Oh, you guys make such a big deal about going into outer space. I live there, so it's no big thing to me. But I wanted to see how humans do it. I headed over to NASA to get me an astronaut. Found a guy named Robert Kirby. Check him out.
Continue. 3, 2, 1.
My name is Robert Kirby. I'm a commander in the United States Navy, and I'm an astronaut.
We have a go for man to start.
I've been to space twice. I was on 2 missions. The first one was mission STS-85 on board the Space Shuttle Discovery, and my second mission was STS-98 on board the Space Shuttle Atlantis.
And liftoff of Space Shuttle Atlantis.
I decided I wanted to become an astronaut after taking a field trip at Johnson Space Center, and I met a woman named Kathy Thornton who was an astronaut. After talking to her, I decided that I wanted to do the same job that she did. The astronaut candidate training took about a year. The training is actually like going to Disneyland, only getting paid to do it. We do a lot of simulators. We learn how to handle different types of emergencies. We learn how to do spacewalks. We learn how to do all of our experiments that are scheduled to do on that mission.
We would really like it if you could get a good shot of the port ECOM antenna.
During our training, we go to the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, and the Neutral Buoyancy Lab is really just a big swimming pool, and we actually practice our spacewalks there on full-scale mock-ups of the 2 space vehicles.
The training's pretty cool, and it's fitting because doing spacewalks is pretty cool. Oh, man.
I love doing spacewalks.
Okay, guys, I think it's a great day to go and do a spacewalk.
Being in space is just the greatest thing in the world. The view is incredible. The Earth is beautiful. It's faster than any car or any ride you've ever had in your life. Weightlessness is kind of a weird feeling, but the best way I could describe it is probably being underwater in a pool where you don't have to hold your breath and your vision isn't very blurry. It's a totally peaceful feeling. The vehicle we're in front of is called the Crawler. We use it to take a mobile launch platform and a space shuttle out to the launch pad. And the whole stack weighs about 15 million pounds when it's all said and done. I've been on the Space Shuttle Discovery and the Space Shuttle Atlantis, and Discovery is definitely my favorite. I have a soft spot in my heart for Discovery just because it was my first time, and the ride is a lot smoother. And going to orbit on board Discovery, it's just rock solid. It flies like a tense muscle. Space food really isn't very different from the food that you have every day, but the packaging is a little bit different. Peach yogurt, there's a grilled pork chop. I eat a lot of shrimp cocktail on orbit, but this is probably my favorite, and that's chocolate. Becoming an astronaut isn't much different from getting any other government job. You apply via the standard form 171, and hopefully they pick your name from a list of probably 3,000 to interview, and if you're lucky enough, they pick you to ride in the space shuttle.
Copy that flight time.
My favorite astronaut is probably Neil Armstrong, and just because he was part of the team that did something that's truly great, and it took a lot of bravery to do what he and his team did. If I had to give any advice to the kids that were watching this show right now, I would just say try to be the best at whatever you do, and do something that you really enjoy. Life is too short not to really enjoy what you're doing every day. So I would definitely go and seek out something that allowed me to have a lot of fun while I was working. I did that, and hopefully you'll get to do the same.
Roger that. We're watching.